they're looking for shortcuts. There is no shortcuts in terms of relationship building. It takes typically 1 to 8 touch points to make a sale. That's what we see. So, authenticity is still key. The work that you put in, the research, and actually genuine kind of empathy and trying to offer, help and aid people is key. And technology can't do that. So that hasn't gone away. And if anything, it's really strengthened, to be honest, since COVID, where people enjoy face-to-face interaction, where yes, you can speak to people over Teams, as we're kind of doing today, because you're in NZ and I'm in Australia. Totally get that. But the ability to go out and have a coffee with someone, and I think the one thing that I really stress, even with my team, we did this today on the team call, is go and meet people, take the time, have a coffee, have a conversation, because you really want to get to know what's going on with them. What's your purpose? What you need? What makes you happy? And the happiness thing, the older that I get, is a key thing. Do I get out of bed every day, and do you actually enjoy? That's a big part. And I've done this where I've had jobs where money, you need to be paid a fair wage, particularly when you've got kids, mortgage, various things. But if you're not happy, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid $1 million a year, right? Or whatever. Yeah. It's happiness is the key thing.
Welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. Today, we explore how sales and recruitment industry has evolved in the age of AI and technology, while also acknowledging the timeless principles that remain critical for success. We'll discuss how the importance of doing your research and maintaining a positive mindset, building strong relationships, and delivering insight and value upfront that continue to drive results even as the tools and techniques around us evolve. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya. I'm so grateful that you're here watching or listening to this episode. Would love for you to share this episode with your friends, your family, and your workmates. And if you haven't already done so, please follow or subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a future episode, and we can get this out to the wider world. Today's guest is Steve Tolan. Steve Tolan is a seasoned sales growth expert with over 20 years of experience in sales, leadership, business development, and strategic revenue growth. He is the managing director of Pinpoint Talent. Pinpoint Talent is a dynamic, progressive recruitment company founded in 2015. Steve, or Stolen, as he's also known, is more affectionately known as, has a proven track record for helping businesses thrive by changing the game, building, refining, and executing effective sales strategies. Known for his unique ability to combine strategic vision with actionable insights, Steve has hosted numerous events and podcasts to share his knowledge, empowering growth-oriented business leaders and their teams. Steve, welcome to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
G'day, mate. Nice to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. And after hearing that intro about what we're going to be discussing, I think I'm on the wrong podcast. Jeez.
Well, you will have a champion mindset by the time you finish this one anyway.
Yeah, exactly. In the deep end.
Absolutely. So, Steve, before we dive into some questions, tell us a little bit about your journey in life. Like, where are you from? What are your highlights of your life? What are the challenges you've overcome, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, mate, great question. We'll see how long we've got, but mate, Steve Tolan, or Stolen, is as I'm affectionately known. So yeah, I'm from Liverpool, born and bred. Very working class city, working class family. And mate, I grew up, and I've always kind of worked hard. So I was actually telling my 15-year-old son this yesterday, who's at high school. And I started a business with my dad at the age of 17. Probably gives you an idea as the work ethic. I didn't go to uni, built a business, and I've always had that kind of passion for sales, people, relationship building, but really working hard. People think I take the mick when I say, I used to sell fish. It's exactly what we did. So we owned a seafood import export business. It wasn't quite as down and dirty as a lot of people think, but I just let the imagination play. But what I realized is that from a very early age, I was good with people. I liked getting up early in the morning, which I did. And yeah, mate, what you see is kind of what you get. It led me to, I guess, from a career perspective, getting into recruitment because it was based on people. So that's kind of the people side. But in terms of who I am, I'm a father of three kids, two boys, one daughter, married to Ruth, who's also in the recruitment industry. So there you go. But mate, yeah, I live in Sydney's Northern Beaches. Been here since 2009, and Sydney's home, and yeah, I'm 30 odd years in sales for my sins, and I've still got hair, which is quite a surprise. But mate, I think people, sales, high energy, kind of relationship building, they're kind of the things that I'm kind of known for.
So in today's world, how does your experience shape your approach to sales with the increased amount of technology that's out there?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think technology has evolved so much, over the last few years. If you went back 4 years ago, obviously no one had really heard of like Microsoft Teams. Then all of a sudden, bang, everyone's on Teams, and we're communicating as we're doing today. Technology, I always say first and foremost, is an enabler. Particularly in the recruitment space. Recruitment is and always will be a people business. So people enjoy the human interaction. They enjoy conversations with people. What machines and technology can't do. They don't have the ability to kind of empathize, consult and provide
Mm,
kind of advice in that way. So I think first and foremost, even from when I went back to, selling fish, or when I first got into recruitment, some things have changed, some things have stayed the same, which is, uh, you know, knowing and doing your research, and in recruitment being able to actually provide to help people and support people and provide advice. That hasn't gone away. And if anything, it's really strengthened, to be honest, since COVID, where people enjoy face-to-face interaction, where yes, you can speak to people over Teams, as we're kind of doing today, because you're in NZ and I'm in Australia. Totally get that. But the ability to go out and have a coffee with someone. And I think the one thing that I really stress, even with my team, we did this today on the team call, is go and meet people, take the time, have a coffee, have a conversation, because you really want to get to know what's going on with them. What's if they're in a role, maybe they're looking, how can you help them?
mm,
But also the key thing, which I think technology can't do, is going out and that ability to really assist people and say, look, how can I help you? And I think this is where in today's world, particularly in recruitment, it's gone very transactional, where some people maybe think, well, I'm not, what's actually in this for me in this conversation? And if you go into it with that mindset that I've got to get a win or I've got to get something from it, that's not the point. So good old fashioned relationship building. And even today with AI, same thing, you could automate the full end to end recruitment process, which is fantastic. But what I tend to use it for, and I do use AI, in particular, everyone uses ChatGPT or various things, is use it to enable, personally, I use it to enable me to speak to more people, right? So I still ensure that there's a human kind of interaction that's in there. So kind of hope that answers the question.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, humanness, we are human beings, so we've got to be right and relate to people. It's not a one size fits all, and everyone is diverse and different. We've just been talking about diversity, and yeah, so I totally understand, totally agree. Having come from a sales background myself, and also ingrained into me because my father was a car salesman, so it was all about relationship. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, Steve, you mentioned about selling fish. What about selling fish do you like? Have you taken takeaways that you still use today in your business?
Yeah, well, I went from one slippery subject to another in dealing with recruitment. I think that's the obvious kind of hook there. Mate, there's a really funny story and around this, which I took with me. So again, what you see is kind of what you get. That's what I say up front. Liverpool kind of born and bred. Always been fascinated with people, and in terms of sales, relationship building doesn't just happen immediately, so it takes time. You get to know people. So if I go back to one of the first stories, and people still laugh at this, right? I'm gonna give a bit of an anecdote here. I was always big in languages. A lot of my customers in the UK were from Hong Kong, so they spoke Cantonese. So my wife hates this, but what I realized was that a lot of, well, obviously they had to learn and converse in English, and I thought what would give me an advantage was if I could actually pick up the language in Cantonese. So I actually did that. I went and learned basic Cantonese. So even today, I'm still very fluent. If you want to go for a Chinese meal or various things, I can name all the seafoods in Cantonese, which my wife hates. It's quite embarrassing. Now, obviously, that doesn't translate into recruitment, but I think what it shows is that if the effort that you put in, your customers, they can all see who's going the hard yard. So as I said on that, Anthony, maybe we've met two or three times, and at a point you might be thinking, okay, is there an opportunity here or whatever? But actually, I truly believe, and I've seen this in the people that I network with myself and hold in my close circle, is many of them they want to help, but there's nothing, maybe there's nothing in it, there's no desired kind of outcome. But I think people are willing to help those that go in the extra mile. So I think in recruitment, as per that story, if you put the bare minimum effort in, you'll only get minimum or basic results, right? Those who are looking and thinking, okay, how can I speak to more people? How can I know more about my industry? How can I do more research, right? How can I, be the best in my industry? They're the ones that get results. So I generally think you'll find a lot more people in recruitment who are a lot more knowledgeable, probably speak better, various things. I think you'd probably struggle to find someone who work harder, who continually try and connect with more people. So I think the work ethic, mate, is the one thing that has served me quite well, in the recruitment industry.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah. So nearly 2 decades in recruitment and strategic sales. How has the industry evolved, and how do you maintain the resilience with development of AI? It seems to be moving so constantly, like it's just constant change, right?
Yeah, well, mate, look, I'm definitely not the technology expert. I'm no Steve Jobs. I think knowledge is power. So if I don't understand something, I go away and I get a sense of what the solution is about. Because if someone asks you the question, what is your take on this? How are you using AI in your business? And you haven't got any opinion on it, then you do look, you look quite on kind of professional. So. It's interesting because in my role at Pinpoint, and I mentioned this the other day, it's the first time I've actually been in a recruitment business and operational side for almost 15 years, right? I've done strategic sales, outsourcing, private equity, done consulting. And some things have changed, some things have stayed the same, right? Which is basically the first thing, you only get out what you put in. It's still a people first business, as we talked about. But what has changed is the tools, there are ways in which I fundamentally believe it will allow you to have more conversations. So AI, you can use AI to do lead generation. You can use AI to, automate and send out, mass mails. Personally, I've tried them myself, and I think it actually makes you look really unprofessional. So it's finding that kind of balance in terms of how do you ensure that, if you're building a process, as I say, for outreach, then maybe you use some automation to cast your net wide. But are there human touch points in between? You can't just completely let a machine do the relationship building for you. I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of those that are entering the market today and entering the recruitment business. They're looking for shortcuts. There is no shortcuts in terms of relationship building. It takes typically 1 to 8 touch points to make a sale. That's what we see. So, authenticity is still key. The work that you put in, the research, and actually genuine kind of empathy and trying to offer help and aid people is key, and technology can't do that. So yeah, mate, that's just my take on that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely agree. There are certain back end things that you could automate and but yeah, absolutely when it comes to humans, you want to really connect one on one.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. What sets you apart as a recruitment company from others? Like there are a lot of people. I mean, in my experience, uh, there's not many recruitment companies out there that have really taken the time to um, you know, um, get to know me better, or
Yeah.
in the experience I've had, and also um, to represent me. So what sets you apart from others?
Yeah, mate, great question. I'll give you quite an alarming stat. In Australia, there's between 10 to 12,000 recruitment businesses.
Wow.
Can you believe that, right? So firstly, it's ultra competitive, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So there's two sides to this story. I'm going to try and give you a very balanced kind of equation. Recruiters, get paid on per placement. So I found Anthony a job, being successful, and Anthony's found the right company, various things. So there's that kind of there's that commercial reality, right? Which is, if you advertise a job, if you look today, even at some of the Seek reports that came out recently, we saw the amount of job applications has just gone through the roof, whereas the amount of actual job openings is through the floor. So there's ridiculous numbers of candidates that are applying for jobs, right? And it is an unfortunate situation. It's virtually impossible to reply to everyone. The number one bit of feedback that we get is I wish people would just respond to me, and I wish people would actually give me feedback. I was really proud, and what we kind of promote really well is that we won an award recently for our candidate care. So Recruiter Insider, we were voted the number one public sector agency actually working within the government for the way that we actually worked with job seekers. So, providing accurate information, accurate feedback, timely communication. It's the simple things that really make a difference. And that's the one thing in our business which I'm quite proud of, is that we aim to be as best as we can. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. But candidates are, if you're, candidates are the lifeblood of any recruitment business, right? So you really have to make sure that you're treating people with care. There's an old adage which I use, and I say to the team, we're dealing with people, not cans of beans, right? And it makes me sound like I'm about 90, but it's true, right? People have feelings, empathy, bills. We've seen examples of this recently where people are on the phone maybe 24 hours after submitting a CV looking for an update. And people go, well, there's nothing to update them on. I'm going, yeah, hang on, just put yourself in that person's position, right? Why do you think they're chasing you up? Maybe they're desperate. Maybe that, maybe all these kind of things. So it's the people side. The candidate care is what I'm really proud of. And as I mentioned there before, one of the things that I've tried to impress on the team is the importance of face-to-face meetings, right? Even it's not selling, and I say this time and time again, might sound a bit contradictory, but it's actually face-to-face and having meaningful conversations. So I hope that kind of answers the question.
Yeah. I've got another question for you, which it's kind of relating to I've started to do. So for me, I just came out of my 24th restructure and my fourth redundancy in my career
Oh,
to come to the realization that I want to be working with businesses to help businesses manage change better and empower their people and then strengthen their businesses. So what opportunities are there for people like coaches, mindset coaches and people who can potentially work along with recruitment companies and organizations
yeah.
around that with that expertise of empathy and mindset and all that sort of stuff. What
Yeah.
would you say to that?
Well, funny because we actually have one of the best in the industry who works with us, Samantha Darbich, who I lean on quite heavily. Does all of the above, Anthony. So I would say there's a huge opportunity for that. What you tend to see with coaches is, they've worked in business, and so you have that life experience, which, for people like me, I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. I'm still here, but I'm getting a bit older, and the back's starting to creak a little bit. But what you tend to you have that life experience, the resilience, the tenacity. Typically, you may have been through things like one recession, maybe two, maybe three. Maybe you've been through organizational kind of restructures, as per the points I answered before. You understand what someone is potentially going through because you've walked in their shoes, right? So you can't actually put a price on that. So I think that is a really valuable point, and hence why we have external expertise with Sam,
Mm,
because someone that's is actually not working day to day in the business, but we can bring an external view that says, actually, maybe approach it like this. Maybe think about how you can engage these people. So one of the projects that we're leading at the moment is, and we're quite proud of this, we're launching a project where we're working with veterans. So, people that come out the military with skills that they can use, tactical skills, IT skills, whatever. Probably, we're working with them on some of the softer skills and ensuring, because they've come out of defense or the military, and they actually want to work in the private sector. And it's very different from the way that it was kind of before. So this is where I think, for us, what we're doing is solving many, many problems where you have a really capable, highly skilled, qualified candidate pool. You also have clients over here that are looking for these kind of skills, and we're trying to match the two, but help them elevate the kind of the softer skills. So mate, I think it's a very valuable kind of asset.
yeah. And do you think that is likely to change? I mean, I know you from what you just said is that you're doing this, which is amazing, which is great. Are other recruitment companies catching on to this and doing this or not?
I mean, I can't comment on every kind of other business. I think it works for us because I truly believe, I mean, from a personal perspective, I enjoy working with external advisors, from people that have skills that I simply do not kind of have. So I think people
Mm,
there with those life skills, particularly what we're looking at today, resilience, kind of tenacity, overcoming adversity, they're kind of quite key. If I give from both sides, and I hope I'm answering the question, we see it within our team. 2024 has been a really, really tough market. Recruiters are a little bit kind of beat up. We see it in our business. They're not getting the results that they once had. The old tactics aren't kind of working. Then you flip it on its
no.
head. The
Mm,
candidates are feeling a little bit kind of
mm,
beat up. So you have to have this kind of outlet and that external advice, which, as I mentioned, people like Sam kind of brings to us to the table. So we draw on it quite heavily,
yeah.
and I believe it gives us a really kind of unique selling point. So again, I can't really comment on other businesses, but it's certainly something that we truly believe and invest in.
Yeah, it sounds like there's an opportunity for other organization or other
Yeah.
recruitment organizations to leverage this kind of thinking
Yeah.
and change them because uh, if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to get the same result, right?
Oh, mate, 100%. And you talk about like the kind of gig economy. You know, there are this old adage that, you only hired people permanently 9 to 5 and stuff. The world's changed. So,
Mm,
what we see in the shift excuse me, the recruitment kind of landscape, businesses now, which are kind of like, which are almost like marketplaces, right? Where people just want to
mm,
get work done. So Anthony will put a scope up and say, hey, I need this done today. We've seen platforms like Fiverr, all these kind of things where you can get work done kind of offshore. That's here to stay.
mm,
So I definitely think that if you've got those niche kind of skills, businesses should be kind of tapping into it.
yeah.
It makes a hell of a lot of difference. And as I say, I'm someone that has a lot of coaching myself, from that kind of different areas because I don't think I know it all. There's things that I'm really strong at. There's other things that yeah, I definitely need kind of development areas, and I know exactly where they are. So I definitely think it's the way that the world is kind of moving towards.
Absolutely, yeah. Will the job search be fully automated, or do you still prefer the human touch?
Mate, it's a great question. As I mentioned earlier, you could literally, and we've seen this, technology's evolved so much now, from kind of 5, 10 years ago. You could automate the end to end from if you broke down the job cycle from job posting to offer management to etc. It can be all automated. What I've from experience, I still prefer, an expert, a human expert, to come to me, have a conversation. I would much rather someone sat me down and went, Steve, what do you actually want? I know this is what your CV says or this is what LinkedIn says, but how can I actually help you? Let's understand the kind of the skills. So
Mm,
what I do think will change is that, as I mentioned, the front end, almost that kind of funneling system. You will have people, the recruitment businesses that are embracing AI and changing it and trying to find out a happy medium will be the ones that will be more successful, but they're not looking to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. What they're doing is going, okay, where is our bottleneck? Our bottleneck is maybe that we get 1,000 applicants for every role. How do we funnel that down into 100 or 50 qualified people? That's
mm,
where I see those businesses that are going to be more successful and ultimately make more money by using AI, using technology to ensure they're getting right candidate fits, right kind of behaviors, various things. So, but I still feel from experience, people want to know that someone has actually looked at their kind of resume, actually met with them personally, and made sure that that
mm,
matching's in place. So that's just my kind of personal take on where the market's at.
yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you guide your team with blending the benefits of technology like AI and then the foundational skills?
Mate, great question. If I look at how the recruitment market has changed over the past kind of few years, and it's a constant question that we get is the 360 recruitment model the way to go? And that can be in two ways, in terms of whether people work on temporary requirements, permanent requirements, or actually do they go out and find the work, or do they actually kind of go out and source the work? My personal view is that I think that the market has evolved, and you have people who are natural relationship builders, and other people that will naturally want to sit there and go, okay, Anthony's given me a requirement. I'm going to sit here and do a really thorough kind of search, and I'm going to go through, and I'm not going to stop because it's a very detailed kind of requirement. So I think that is one trend that I've seen. And I think one thing that we're kind of assessing to go, how do we look to establish our business better for substantial growth that we're looking to kind of go through. So that's one thing from a kind of a human element. So then you're looking at what skills and what gaps are there. So as I mentioned before, we have an external coach that comes in, and we're looking and going, okay, maybe people need guidance on building a kind of a pipeline, right? Build actually deal relationship building, dealing with objections. The other thing right now, which is big in the market, you have to have, if you don't have a personal brand, you don't simply
Mm,
stand out. So that's the first
yeah.
thing. Your first objection these days is people, it's not a case of who do you know, it is literally who knows you, right? So
Mm,
that's the key thing. So AI, all these kind of sourcing tools that they're there. And everyone's different, a mixed kind of results, but I think it's here to stay. So ensuring that to me, that I look at it and say, are you getting access to speak to more people, and are you
mhm,
talent pipelining? Like even the conversation we had this morning, our team meeting, we're looking at evolving so we can actually talent pool the right kind of roles and candidates prior to the
mhm.
opportunities, so that it's not going back and doing a search every time. But yeah, so I think human skills we're kind of assessing, and technology. So it's just finding that kind of balance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And how would you describe your leadership style has evolved over time?
Uh, st- Still very assertive. I like to drive. I take my work very seriously. I don't take myself seriously, and I hope that's probably kind of comes across. I like to have a laugh. Um, I'm I like to be I like to lead by example. So
Mm,
always been that way. I've been, if we look at roles, and as I mentioned before, it's the first time I've actually been in a recruitment business, leading a business for 15 years, because
mm,
I've been the rainmaker. I've been corporate sales. I've done solution sales and various things. What I'm trying to get better at right now is I can go at a quite a fast pace, and remembering that I've got a team that needs to kind of come along with me on the journey. So, I'm aware of, where some of my development areas are, right? So I always have to try and
mm,
make sure that I'm communicating effectively, that, people understand why I'm kind of making these decisions. So that's kind of my style: assertive, clear communication. I will always lead from the front. So I'll give you an example. If I ask the team to do 3, 4, 5 meetings, I'll typically do 10. I enjoy
mm,
opening doors, and I try and help people as best as I can.
mhm.
Um, that's kind of, yeah, that's kind of how I guess, explain, get my leadership style.
Yeah, thank you for that. Going back to the last point that we were talking
Yeah.
about, because something that came to me was there's a lot of people out there in the job market, that people who are frustrated, who don't have clarity as to where they're going, people who are just unconscious about what's going on for them, right?
Yeah.
And so when they come to your team and say, "Hey, I'm looking for work," um, does the coach, the external coach, also then help them with finding clarity and whether they're going into another job or another role, or is there opportunities for them to start their own business? Do you
Yeah, mate.
provide that kind of guidance?
Yeah, mate, it's a great question. So, to be honest, that's probably more the recruitment kind of experts. So we have people specialize in different kind of disciplines, some temporary, some permanent, with different roles. Could be sales, could be IT, what have you. So the recruiter would typically uncover that within the kind of the briefing, the screening kind of
Hmm.
opportunity. So as opposed to more probably an external coach. But if we had candidates that kind of come across that we felt needed specific areas, or could be resilience of various things, you would make introductions. I did this last week.
Mm,
A gentleman came to me and said, can you help me with this? He had a bit of a work issue. I said, look, I can give you some of my kind of layman's kind of terms, but I would rather introduce you to a HR kind of expert, so I know that you're getting 100% advice. So again, I know my kind of areas of expertise. If there's something that I can assist with, I will, but I would much rather put in the direction of the experts if there was something that was outside my kind of comfort zone.
mm. Yeah, because I've been speaking to a lot of people who have got no, who have been made redundant, and they don't have the clarity of where they're going next.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
so chances are they're just going to keep revolving in that hamster wheel. Um,
Yeah, mate,
yeah.
and that's again, and I've kind of been there, you know. So I think what is your purpose, you know? So having built businesses, worked by myself, consulted before, I think you have to find out what is it that, you know, for me, there's a couple of things. What's your purpose? What you need? What makes you happy? And
Mm,
the happiness thing, the older that I get, is a key thing. You know, do I get out of bed every day and do you actually enjoy? That's a big part. And I've done this where I've had jobs where money, you know, you need to be paid a fair wage, particularly when you've got kids, mortgage, various things. But if you're not happy, it doesn't matter if you're getting paid $1 million a year, right? Or whatever.
yeah.
It's happiness is the key thing. So find out what you're passionate about, you know, what you really enjoy. The other thing is the people. You know, we spend so much time at work, and it's changed over the past couple of years where work, you know, used to be somewhere that you kind of went, you know, the 9 to 5, various things. It's now very much around the people that you actually work and kind of collaborate and you know and kind of engage with on a daily basis because you could be sat at home or kind of various things. So I think happiness is things, obviously what you're kind of good at, and you know that kind of compensation. But yeah, we do have a lot of these conversations with people when they come to us. You know, they say, "Look, I'm a little bit kind of lost." You do your best to try and obviously help them and kind of give them clarity, and it works both ways because what you don't want is to place someone with one of your clients and then someone after a couple of months leaves because it's not right for them. So that's one of the
Yeah.
key things that we try and draw out in a kind of screening process.
Yeah. Yeah. Just to add to that, from the Greatness Mindset by Lewis Howes, he talks about your passion,
Yeah.
your power, your superpower,
Yeah.
and what is the problem that you can solve. So with those three P's, passion, power, and purpose and problem, um, someone should be able to get some clarity around what
Sure.
they want. Yeah, absolutely. So how would your team describe you?
Jesus. Well, put me on the spot. Yeah. Geez, mate, that's really holding up the mirror there. One of the things that I always encourage is feedback. You know, I genuinely do all the time. I don't think I'm perfect, and you know, if I look at leaders that I've really worked well and performed my best under, it's typically the ones that I've known that trust. They value me as a human being, first and foremost, as opposed to those that are just, you know, you're there just to do a number. So I would say probably they, I would be disappointed if they didn't think that I was someone that they, you know, we built trust and that I was quite open in terms of
Mm,
feedback, dealing with feedback. Leads from the front, as I kind of mentioned there before. Hopefully, I've got relatively good self-awareness, I would hope. You know, again, I'll give you a great example. If someone came to me now and said, Steve, I need to build a client list or a list of prospects, let's go. I need personal branding, let's go. If someone came to me and said, Steve, could you tell me which technology was the best to kind of use, or could you help me build this kind of financial plan on Excel? I can tell you right now, I'd be the worst person. So I believe that I know exactly where my kind of strengths are.
mm,
I think that's one of the things as a leader you don't know everything, right? You just
mm,
don't. And I
yeah,
think it's a real weakness where people try and pretend that they have the answer for everything. There's many times I go, I actually don't know, or I'll come back to you, or like as I said before, we'll seek counsel of someone else that has that kind of skill. So I would hope if I kind of summed it up, trustworthy, driven, you know, knows self-awareness, knows strengths from kind of development areas. And hopefully they'd say that, you know, I've kind of got their back. So mate, hopefully that sounds like a fair kind of
mm,
assessment.
yeah. Yeah, leaders don't necessarily need to know how to do everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, being able to set a vision and be able to lead people, guide people, and lead people is
Yeah.
important. Yeah.
Well, I got some stick this morning because I had this shirt on the video and I apparently had the top button undone. So apparently one of them said he's trying to be in a boy band and I wasn't. So hopefully the other point in that is they can actually see I don't mind a laugh. So there we go. So I don't take myself too seriously, as I said.
Yeah, yeah. So we talked about LinkedIn and your profile being your personal brand being so important. Tell us a little bit more about that. Like, what is the personal brand, and how is it so important, especially on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so mate, LinkedIn is here to stay. You know, it's interesting. We've had this discussion internally where, and I've seen this around. do businesses even need a website today, as an example, right? And if you think back 10 years ago, you had to have a website, and you had to have all the bells and whistles and integrated and da da da. Let me be clear on that. Yes, you do need the website so people know that you're legitimate, but most people, the first thing they do if we're on this conversation, LinkedIn is your
LinkedIn.
shop window, right? So
Mm,
what they would typically do is I rang you up and said, "Hey, Anthony, Steve Tolan for Pinpoint." 99% you would go, "Who the hell's this guy?" And you check out on LinkedIn. So it's you have to the ability to stand out, the ability to be seen as an expert in your area, to actually know that you're talking about it's credibility. So they're the key things. So what I say to the team, and I practice what I preach, right? I typically post a couple of videos a week, although I've been a bit slack over the last couple of weeks. To be honest, just with workload and a few things, and also I don't believe in putting content out that is not for token content. Don't post a video just because you say I've ticked that box. So I will typically only put a video out when I've got something to actually talk about or share some bits of advice. I also don't sell. So typically what I say is here's three bits of advice. It could be around candidate care, the market, what have you. Thanks so much. Have a great day. People enjoy that. Well, most of them do, the feedback that I kind of get, which is I totally get what you're trying to do. The other thing is as well is this we have this fear, this natural fear as human beings of putting ourselves out there. It's that kind of tall poppy syndrome. So a lot of people are fearful of putting a video, putting a picture up in case someone says you get a bit of negative feedback. It kind of goes with it. Unfortunately, if you
mm,
get X number of thousand views or what have you, there's always going to be one person that kind of maybe doesn't like it or what have you. That's great. It shows that you're actually getting people are actually engaging with your content. So mate, you want to be seen as someone who knows what they're talking about, an expert in their industry. The other thing as well is people want to get a sense of who you are before they then engage with you, mate. So a personal brand is absolutely critical in today's market.
yeah. I was talking to last week. Did an interview on this podcast with a lady called Lanier Johnston from Linkability,
Yeah,
and she's like right into LinkedIn. And she said that LinkedIn, when you do a search on Google, the LinkedIn will come up to the top because LinkedIn and Google have done got an
yeah,
agreement that LinkedIn stuff will always come up the top.
SEO.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so there you go. LinkedIn's going to be the top
yeah,
um,
100%.
uh, result.
Yeah.
So make sure your brand is up to scratch. Yeah,
Hmm.
people know, like you just said, Steve. People know who you are, that you're an expert in your field, and that your credibility and so on. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Tell us about the recruitment landscape in 2024 and how does Pinpoint Talent stand out? And in addition to that, what are you going to do different in 2025?
Jesus, oh my God, where'd you get these questions from? Mate, it's a great question. So well done. So 2024 has been a very tough year. It's been a tough year, in the economy, various things. We've seen spending cuts, interest rates, kind of increase. There's been cost of living pressures. All this has an impact on our business because our business is basically placing people into jobs. So when the employment opportunities decrease, it has a clearly negative impact up for us. So if I tell you about what we've focused on this year, now I believe we're standing out. It's that personal touch which I talked about before. So I understand because I'm walking in your shoes. I'm in there doing the day to day, the relationship building the sales pipeline. So I understand what you're dealing with. What you cannot control is the outcome. You cannot control the result. What you can control, and I get a bit of stick for saying this with my Scouse Liverpudlian accent, is you can control your attitude and your activity. Two things. So do you show up every day and think, I'm here, I've got a roof over my head, I'm getting paid, it's not bad, and I'm going to make a difference. And what I say is, if I think I'm going to speak to 5, 10 people today, if I do that and I make the outreach, I can control, and have sensible conversations. That's the key things. That's what I want us to focus on, quality over quantity. And again, I see this, the people in this industry, there are many who are still being very successful and they're doing exactly that. They're going into things and the attitude is, I'm not selling. I'm here to offer value first and foremost. I'm here to offer insight. I also know the market really, really well. So, let me come and tell you, get my viewpoint. So that's the key thing. So That's kind of what we focused on this year. I think moving into next year, if I had my crystal ball, I would love to think that the market's going to bounce back, kind of Q1. That would be absolutely fantastic. What we've focused on right now over the last kind of quarter that is teeing us up for 2025 is meeting as many people as possible. People being seen. So, we're posting content. We've done a lot of events that are just really networking events, thought leadership events. Again, there's no predetermined kind of outcome, but I would like our clients, our customers, potential customers to think when the opportunity comes around, I'm going to go to Pinpoint. So, mate, that's kind of our strategy. Be seen, be helpful, offer assistance, and be authentic. So, I hope that kind of gives you a sense of what we're focusing on.
Mm. Do you also in your business, is it mainly in Australia, or do you also work with clients to recruit people who can do remote work as well from overseas?
Yeah, so the majority of the work that we do is in Australia. We're very much based on the Eastern Seaboard, so we do a lot of work within the public sector. So typically requirements are, Australian kind of citizenship, various things for a lot
Mm,
of the roles. So we work quite heavily within defence, roles in kind of Canberra. So like predominantly for us, it's with opportunities within Australia. In the
mm,
private sector, if clients come and we say, look, are you open to sponsorship, kind of various things, then absolutely, we're open to the conversation. But yeah, I would say the majority of the work that we do tends to be in the contractor space, quite prolific and well known within the public sector. So it just depends on the kind of the client requirements.
mm. Is it right that the recruitment industry is very competitive?
Well, mate, yeah, it is. I mean, as I said before, there's 10 to 12,000 of us in the recruitment market. It's crazy. It's very competitive. What sets everybody aside? If I threw up or went and searched now on 10 different websites for 10 different recruitment businesses, I guarantee you could take the logo out and you probably have the same thing. It's our people that make the difference. We care. We do da 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 da. Mate, some of that, and I don't mean that kind of being facetious or kind of flippant. What really makes the difference is you as an individual, right? How you show up every day. Again, all the things that typically make you the expert. We talked about and I talk a lot about sports and various things. So that kind of mindset, those who go the extra mile tend to be the ones that get the results, right? They're
Mm,
understanding their market, they're understanding the opportunities. If we're having a coffee right now, if I meet with you and I've got no idea or no understanding what we're going to talk about, then it will be a pretty flat conversation. And I don't always get it right, mate. I've had it myself where I've rocked up to conversations. It happened recently, where someone said to me, almost, do you not know who I am? And I sat there and watched my kind of face because I rushed into a meeting. And so I don't always get it right. But, mate, I think the thing that is going to set the recruitment businesses apart is you as an individual. Know your market, take care of your candidates, empathy, and actually show that you care and you're well networked and, you're halfway there.
absolutely. And lastly, before we go into the quick fire questions, tell us about how you apply the corporate mindset principles to sporting principles.
Yeah, mate, great question. So I think it's the world's worst secret that I'm a sports fan, quite like boxing. And mate, to me, I kind of look for those kind of one percenters that I wasn't born to be a wallflower, right? I don't blend in. I like being different. So to me, the two kind of go hand in hand. Recruitment is a contact kind of business. You are going to deal with a lot of blows in a business in an industry that has 10 to 12,000 businesses. Resilience is key. Tenacity is key. Dealing with the body blows, pardon the pun for sports, but it's true. You will get people that do not want to engage. You will get people that you'll place candidates and then they'll fall over at the final hurdle. That happens. All these kind of things. So that's why I really play on the kind of the sporting mindset. So the events that I've hosted every quarter are called Change the Game. It's a very simple play on that sporting mindset versus business, which is if you rock up to a marathon and you're there and you've trained for 3 months, whatever it is, you get to the finish line, you kind of fall over. That must be really heartbreaking, but it happens, right? Maybe you've got a fight, and you get there, an injury kind of stops you kind of coming through. In sales, it's the same. We have meetings that are booked. You can have people that are locked in, and then whatever happens, right? They just don't start. This is life. it sounds a bit cheesy, but it's the old Rocky Balboa, right? Like, in terms of it's not how hard you hit, it's how hard you can get hit, keep coming back, mate. That is sales to a
Mm.
T. Those that make it in recruitment and sales are the ones that can really bounce back quite quick, not dwell on stuff, and really just kind of keep moving forward. So that's why I've really kind of continued to focus on working with athletes because I think it translates very well into the corporate space.
Yeah, having the ability to adapt and pivot is important, right?
Yeah.
And we're also I would add to that courage, vulnerability, authenticity, self-compassion, and empathy for yourself as well as others.
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
100%. Like, I mean, there's many things that I've tried and failed at, right? Like, so, the one thing that I'll always say is that in any opportunity in life comes up, I go, what's the worst that could happen? Well, whatever, you gave it a go. But I think the one thing, and probably even my team listens to this, I listened to this story recently, and they said, if you're on your deathbed, and you've probably heard this, and someone said, I wanted to be that guy who went, you know what? I got no regrets. I gave it a go, right? At least I tried. And if you're that, that's the one thing, mate. Like people are afraid to try because they're embarrassed or they think the fear of failure. Mate, it's not that bad. We create this kind of vision or this kind of all these stories in your mind that like, geez, people are going to laugh at me. I'll fail. I'll do this. When I set up kind of my own business, when you go into that and you haven't got that kind of safety net, you just have to go and you have to make it. And I think that's why I go back to the kind of the boxing analogy, which is it's you against you, right? Again, you're in the ring, you're on your own, you can't tap out, you can't bring on a substitute. And it's the same in business, mate. Like, so I think all those kind of things, if you've got fear of failure, everyone does, imposter syndrome. I've kind of dealt with it. And the more experience that every time you kind of do something, the only growth comes from really testing yourself. So that's kind of the big thing
Mm.
I see. So if I look back at the opportunities I've taken on board, the biggest growth has come from when I've really gone in at the kind of the deep end. So yeah, mate. So it's pretty normal.
Yeah, because our thoughts don't actually have any meaning until we give them meaning, right? So, because our thoughts are neutral.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. And so it's so important to get your mindset right. Now, before we go into the quick fire questions, of also, what does being a champion mean to you, and what does a champion mindset mean to you?
Great question. So mate, being a champion, overcoming adversity, I think staying, just almost backing yourself, mate. You gave it, goes back to the previous question. I just want to be someone that says, you know what, he gave it a go, right? So, if you look at me and it's on LinkedIn, various things, talk about events and stuff, I get up, I sing, I do all sorts of things. I don't take myself too seriously, right? People now know and they go, that's Steve, it's Tolen. So I think I'm proud to be unique, and I do things a little bit differently. I'm not trying to conform. So, yeah, mate. I hope that kind of answers the question about the champion. In terms of the champion mindset, again, it probably links back to what I said before. It's the ability to kind of keep coming back because you will deal with, I nearly swore then, lots of bad things that will happen, lots of things that are out of your control, particularly in recruitment. You deal with
Mm.
it, you process it, you kind of move on.
Yeah,
And that to me is the champion mindset, those that have the ability to kind of bounce back from setbacks.
yeah, awesome. Yeah. So, what does success mean to you, and has that definition changed for you over time?
Made success. Wow, great. Jesus Christ, you didn't warn me about these, Anthony. So, made success, I think, is showing up every day from work sense, being the best version of myself. People can see I'm like a light. When I'm on, I'm on. When I'm off, I'm a very different person. So my biggest asset is my energy. So that's for me is success. If I can turn up every day and aim to make a difference, I'm happy with that. If I flip it from the family perspective, I want to be the best father that I can kind of be. You drop my 15-year-old son at camp this weekend. He probably thinks I'm too hard on him sometimes, mate. I just want him to be the best version of himself, right? Like so, that's something that I try and get better at every day. You know what I mean? It's like I grew up, as I mentioned, very working class kind of family, and I want him to be proud of himself and take the opportunities, make the most of the opportunities. So hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah. Who's been your greatest inspiration and why?
Wow, my goodness, mate. I mean, there's so many. There's a mutual friend that kind of connected us, a guy called Mario Beckish, who I got to know recently. And this wasn't kind of preset, but mate, you meet people at different stages in your life that just really kind of really push you forward. I wouldn't say he pushes me forward. I say he bleeding drags me by the scruff of the neck. He's someone that inspires me with what he's done. You know, a guy who speaks four or five different languages, ran a podcast because a lot of people said you're crazy, and
Mm,
he doesn't speak English is not his first language. I think he's got over 100,000 subscribers. That inspires me. So seeing what he's done, the work he's done, he's built a business. I'm proud to call him a friend. So, mate, he's someone that I take a lot of inspiration from, and he continually makes me demand more of myself. That one's for you, Mario. You actually inspire me, my friend.
yeah, yeah. I'm grateful to have met Mario myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's an inspiration to me as well. What is something that you believe that others may disagree with?
Uh, they, I guess maybe life's not fair and you only get out what you put in, right? Like, so again, and I see this even talking about the industry. If you rock up every day and you expect great results from putting in the minimum effort, you only get out what you put in, right?
Mm,
Typically what I see in any walk of life, in sport or whatever, those people that are being successful are the ones that are just working their ass off. It's not
mm,
that hard. You will meet people with better educations than me. I say I sold fish, didn't go to uni, right? So there's people who've got all the degrees, various things. As I mentioned up front, I truly believe that you'll be hard pushed to find someone that works harder than me. So again, mate, you only get out what you put in, and life's not fair.
yeah, yeah. All right, two more questions.
Cool.
If you could go back and give young Steve a bit of advice, what would it be?
Uh, Mate, don't again, probably don't be too hard on yourself. It's interesting, and if we were doing this interview a couple of years ago, I'm insanely driven. And I've had people in my team say like, just almost kind of slow down a little bit. But I'm insanely driven, and everyone knows this. I find it really hard to kind of switch off. And the older that I get, I'm trying again that self-awareness. I'm trying to be better at kind of switching off and stuff. And also, I think as I kind of mentioned, is not everybody goes at your kind of pace. And I don't mean that as in, hopefully that's not coming across as kind of trying to be self-promotional. I'm insanely driven, and I don't think that's ever going to change. And even kind of going back to the way that I talked about my son there before, it it gets to me. Seeing my 15-year-old son finding his way in life, and at times he makes mistakes, and I want the best for him. And I think if I kind of sum that up and said, sometimes I have to kind of sit back and go, he's a 15-year-old kid, he's trying his way, da 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 da. As a father, when your purpose now, you communicate at times, it's coming from a pure place. And even this morning I had quite a nice moment with him as I dropped him off at camp, and I said, just enjoy it, enjoy the 2 days and things. So um, yeah, hopefully that's kind of answered the question, mate. And I've probably bared a bit of my soul there, but
That's all right. That's all
yeah,
right. So, what's one last message you'd like to share with the world?
mate, just give it a go. Just give it a go, right? Like there's too many people just worried about all these things that could go wrong and this, that, and the other. And as I said to you before, the one thing if I get to my deathbed and I go, do you know what? I gave it a crack. Great, that's it. That's all you can ask, and don't worry about what other people opinions are like. You know what? Everybody's got one. There's many people that do not like how I'm put together. There's many people that do not like how I go about things. And you know what? I really don't care because I'm quite comfortable in my own skin. And that's how I go about things, mate. So I think, people that say, Stolen, he tries his things. I went through a phase a few years ago where, it's like you almost wanted to try and fit in with this kind of model of what this corporate executive kind of guy. People want authenticity. They want to deal with people humble. They're trustworthy and actually know what they're about, and they like dealing with me, hopefully because I'm a character. So, just give it a go, mate, would be, and don't care what other people think.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, um, most people would want you to conform to how they want you to be, but it's like if you're being someone that they want you to be, then you're being limited. So be limitless,
Yeah.
right?
Limits. I love it.
Yeah, be limitless. Just because, you know, in your comfort zone is where your dreams go to die. So get out of your comfort zone and you know, smash your dreams.
Yeah.
Go
100%.
after them. Yeah. All righty. Thank you, Steve, for
Thank
joining
you,
us
Anthony.
today on the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. If people would like to get in touch with you or your team, how
Yeah.
can they do so?
Mate, so hit me up on LinkedIn, Steve Tolan, Stolen. I'm there. Hit us up on the website, the Pinpoint website, which is being rebranded. I think it goes live just before the end of the year. Contact us on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest way, or email me Stolen at pinpointtalent.com.au. So yeah, welcome any kind of conversations, and really thank you for having me on today. And hopefully people can take away some pearls of wisdom.
Oh, I'm sure they will. It's been lots of gems there. Awesome. Thanks, Steve. Well, there you go. This is the end of the podcast. And if you've been listening to this and been inspired or got some insights out of that, get in touch with Steve. You know, post on social media, LinkedIn, and tag us in. Share this episode with someone that could benefit from this, or your friends, your family, and your workmates. And if you haven't already done so, please follow or subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any future episodes, and we can get this podcast out to the wider world. Lastly, I just want to say you are loved, you are worthy, champion your life, champion your greatness, and have an amazing day.